Good morning. My name is Marcin Maryl and welcome to the second day of European Housing Forum. In Warsaw, the temperature is somewhere around 0 degrees, but the heat in the room is getting up, so it's going to be an exciting day. And for those of you who didn't sleep too long, we have something very exciting because we are going to start with flash presentations. They are going to be quick, witty. You're going to love them. They're going to be better than coffee in the morning. After that, we are going to move to the roundtable presentation, and then we will have closing speech and closing remarks. I hope that you guys are ready. The room is full. I hope that in front of your computers, you also have whole family just sitting around you and trying to figure out what are you looking at for those 2 days. It's really exciting to be here. I hope that you have a lot of energy. First to the stage, we are going to meet Imogen Sykes, people-powered Retrofit Operations Manager, who will speak about citizen-led renovations. Imogen, the floor is yours.
Very much. Quick and witty and better than coffee. I'm going to be putting that on my LinkedIn profile, I think. Is there a button for the presentations? Sorry. Thank you. Okay, yes. So as said, my name's Imogen Sykes. I'm the operations lead at People Powered Retrofit, and we are a community-run one-stop shop based in Manchester in the United Kingdom. And I'll get on to exactly what we do and who we are in a little bit, as well as our key learnings. But just to sort of start, I thought I'd kind of contextualise this scene and the landscape in which we're operating in Great Britain at the moment. In terms of retrofit and energy efficiency of domestic dwellings. And I don't think any of this will be a surprise to any of you. The challenges that we face are pretty common across most of Europe anyway. However, I was asked to do a kind of inspiring talk. So what can be more inspiring than how awful the British landscape is at the moment? So for anyone who's actually spent any time in the UK, you'll know that we have some of the worst housing stock in Europe. It's old, it's cold, it's leaky, it's damp, it's generally in desperate need of upgrades. And under our current government, insulation rates have dropped by 92%. And in January 2024, it was estimated that an additional 6.5 million British citizens had fallen into the category of fuel poverty, struggling to afford basic heating in their homes. 9.6 million homes are now considered below basic standards of living, and ill health due to respiratory illnesses are thought to cost the National Health Service about 1.4 billion a year through the treatment of asthma, bronchitis, those kind of things. And for us, like most of you, almost 80% of the housing that we will need by 2050 is already built, and the remainder that will need to be built between now and 2050 will at some point need additional energy upgrades. To meet the vastly changing climate, to meet the changes that we have in our working and lifestyle. And speaking of climate, as only the second highest gas-guzzling nation to Germany, housing operation equates for about 20% of our national emissions and doesn't seem to be getting any lower. And in most cases, we're literally paying for wasted energy and allowing fossil-fueled heat to leak out of our walls, windows, doors, roofs, anywhere. We spend about 26% of our income on rent and energy. So it is clear that there is a huge need to do something about this, not just for the environment, but for vulnerable and disadvantaged communities who continue to pay a significantly higher price, both in terms of their income and their health for their housing. And as our climate begins to shift from, becoming hotter and wetter in summer and wetter and colder in winter, if that's possible, it is these marginalised communities that are living in the poorest of conditions that will continue to be disadvantaged. However, despite this, and our government knows this, the path to retrofitting homes is not so straightforward. And with virtually non-existent policy drivers from the government, a lack of risk appetite for investment and limited awareness or understanding from homeowners about retrofit, action has remained sluggish. Even for those individuals that really want to retrofit their homes, they're faced with supply chain shortages, underskilled and risky and a very depleted workforce. So do we understand the landscape now? It is against this backdrop then, in 2018, that People Powered Retrofit decided to pilot an intervention that assessed whether or not a market could be created in retrofitting in Manchester. In 2021, following a number of years of research and development, it was determined that yes, actually something could be done, and there was both a need and a demand for good quality retrofit in this area. And 3 years following that, in 2024, and perhaps in a lot of ways against all the odds, People-Powered Retrofit has now managed to support over 200 clients in Manchester, fee-earning clients, so clients that are paying us money, to complete retrofit measures on their homes. We've worked with and trained over 100 contractors and partner with communities and organisations and local authorities based across the country to deliver a similar service. We are a team of 13. That's some of the 13, not all of them. And we are a group of architects, advisors, retrofit surveyors, community developers. So how did we do it? And I'm obviously not going to be able to get in too deeply into this in a 10-minute slot, but just to explain again who we are before I go into our key learnings. We are a one-stop shop, and we run an end-to-end retrofitting service where we support clients through assessing the needs on their home, developing design work to mitigate risk, connecting them with contractors, and providing quality assurance on the work that's completed. However, we understand that the solution to retrofit is not just about homeowners, and we also work with contractors to develop training and networking opportunities. We develop our own open source assessment software, and then, as I said, partner with other organisations to kind of spring up similar things in their area. We don't believe that we're the right people to be telling other parts of the UK how to do retrofit, but we can offer the tools about how you build these services. And we tend to work in our service with the able-to-pay owner-occupier homeowners, who are a kind of nebulous group in terms of definition, but generally are on the higher earner side of things, and who we believe should bear some of the economic burden of market creation that allows us to build the infrastructure for retrofit in the UK. And we work with marginalised communities then on side projects, and they benefit from the network expansion that we've made in Manchester. So we came from the position that crucially we believe that in order to address and mitigate against climate change, which is a big area of interest of ours, that it is local communities and individuals that need to own their own solutions. Top-down solutions rarely work. In our experience, they fail to convince anyone of the benefits and generally fall short of their ambitions far too quickly. And in some cases, particularly in the UK, have been scrapped to devastating consequences. Bottom-up approaches, however, when built properly on the assets, networks and infrastructure of communities, can become quickly ingrained and provide people with the tools and knowledge to shape their own solutions. So that's where we started from. We really began by identifying and understanding the communities we wanted to work with, their locations, their personas, their housing types. And we did this through a combination of desk-based research, workshops, open home events, knowledge share sessions. You can kind of see examples of that on the screen. And we wanted to know what was important to these people. What did they know about retrofit? What did they want out of their homes? What were their plans for their future? How did they live their lives? And together we co-developed a service that tailored to meet the unique needs of each client, providing personalised advice and guidance throughout the retrofit process. And what's developed is a service that asks questions about how the homeowner uses their home and tries to develop solutions in accordance with that. We then mitigate the risk of retrofitting, because it's obviously a risky thing to do to your home, through imparting our technical knowledge. But we get the client to act themselves. We get them to make the decisions, and we guide those decisions. And of course, retrofitting homes needs a trusted supply chain. So we don't do the work ourselves. As a one-stop shop, we kind of sit in the middle of the householder and the contractor. And we work closely with the established repair and maintenance industry to get the right training and networking opportunities. And all of this makes the past few years sound like it's really straightforward, but of course it isn't. And some of the key things that we have learned from this process are... Never mind, I shall tell you. Oh, there we go. The first one is people, not housing types. So in a lot of retrofit projects, prioritization is often given to energy performance certificates or housing archetypes. And there's a lot of technology out there that can already do this. There's a lot of knowledge already out there that can tell you how to retrofit these kind of homes and different housing stock. But ultimately, it is the people that live in these homes and their circumstances and priorities are far more important than the type of property that they live in. The second one is design and infrastructure have to go hand in hand. So the creation of a local retrofit market requires the development of services for people to access, but at the same time, it needs neighbourhood level infrastructure development to help the growth of the wider sector. One can't succeed without the other, and my colleague says it's a bit like building a plane whilst flying. It's not easy, but that's what's needed. The next one is work with networks. So we work with small informal networks, usually smaller local contractors, the smaller networks that are already trusted and working in these communities. And by developing and strengthening the network and imparting the skills and knowledge that we have ourselves through Retrofit, we can develop professional opportunities, and we can also upskill clients to work very well with the contractors. And most importantly, I think it's imperative that we replicate a knowledge share. So we work, as I said, with lots of other organisations that all have their own diverse understanding of retrofit in their area. We're based in the north of the UK, and housing types and people are very different to the ones down in the south. So it's all about kind of working with other organisations to kind of develop their own skills in their own community. And one key point, I guess, about people-powered retrofit is that we really sit in the middle. So a lot of energy justice policies and initiatives, often you have the experts on one side and the communities on the other, and very few bring the two together in conversation. And that's our approach, and I think it's the approach of a lot of one-stop shops. So we have the technical expertise to act as the go-between, so decoding experts, providing insight into what the market needs or wants, and then we advocate for the prioritisation of individual human consideration in retrofit. So that means helping people understand the risks and solutions, encouraging the proliferation of that information through lots of different means, documentation, conversations, and services. So retrofit can advance energy justice significantly if done correctly, and by giving people giving people the tools they need. We don't tell people how to do retrofit. Our success metrics are not based on the number of builds that we have on site or the number of retrofits that have been completed. We're more interested in giving people the tools, the knowledge, and the networks to allow people to develop their retrofit in line with their own priorities. And in doing so, we're encouraging citizens to own their own solutions. So my final thing to say here is we have 300 members, and as I said, 200 clients, and we're continuing to grow. We work across the UK and also with other one-stop shops across Europe too. That's me. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Some of you thought that we were joking about those pure energy cups, and we have 4 more of them for you. Next on the stage is going to be with us Edith Lakatos, Senior Policy Officer at Housing Europe, who will talk about European Manifesto to lead the way out of the housing crisis. Please join us.
And I have also the thing to manipulate. This is the one. And it works like this.
The buttons.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction, and thanks for inviting us here. So I'm from Housing Europe. Housing Europe is a federation of cooperative public and social housing providers across Europe. And we are happy to be here and to present you the manifesto that we presented in January, actually in the European Parliament, ahead of the European elections. So these are basically the standards, the basic values that we would like to see in the new European institutions, in the new European Parliament, and we are advocating for those. So let's see point by point what we think should be the new housing paradigm. So we are advocating for 3 steps. So first, as I said, embrace a new housing paradigm, and we will go more details about each of them. The second one, back the movement for a fair energy transition. And the third one is addressing the root causes of housing exclusion. So as a lot of EU functionaries who we are talking to are saying to us, well, the EU has no competence on housing. And we are very tired of hearing this poor excuse. So we, in our manifesto, in the first page, we are already listing all the EU policies that impact housing on local, regional, and national level. So you can see here a list of all the policies that will have an impact on our people. So just starting from EU funding or regulation, so this is shaping the housing systems that we live in. We have the state aid rules that have already a big impact on the investments in social and affordable housing. We have the Stability and Growth Pact that the governments are discussing nowadays. There is the European semester and the country-specific recommendations that will also have an impact on our sector. Just to see a few more, Capital Markets Union. You have also the new Energy Performance Directive and the Energy Efficiency Directive. That was actually amended and was adopted last week. That will actually force us to respect higher standards in the EU. So our providers are facing really high standards. So they need to deliver more housing with higher standards. So also the short-term regulation that is impacting the national and regional laws. So you see all these EU policies that impact our sector. So if you are an MEP or running for elections and you see that, then you say that the EU doesn't have an impact on housing, that it's a pure lie. It is impacting housing. So the first step that we are proposing the EU institutions is to embrace a new housing paradigm. So we need to stop with this 30-year kind of experience that we let everything to the market and our sector will step in and correct what the market fails to deliver. So we have to make sure that our sector is a backbone of our economy and is delivering more equality. So what we propose here is to support the sector, to support public, cooperative, social and community-led housing that will be the backbone of our economy. And you see also other very specific points here. So you should regulate short-term rentals. You should adopt the state aid rules. You should indicate housing in the European semester and the country-specific recommendations. And we also have a very specific, at the end of this slide, is to establish an inter-service group in the European Commission that would give advice on housing to the member states. So the second point is about the fair energy transition. We also go into details, specific recommendations here, but the most important here is to make sure that all the 19 EU funding instruments that are on the table are targeting the responsible renovation. So we want to see a fund on EU level that is harmonizing all the existing funding, that is earmarking funding for responsible renovation and fair energy transition. And with all that, we would like to see that the district is becoming the main approach and not one building. The third step is addressing the root causes of housing exclusion. Of course, access to social and affordable housing is an important step, and we should prevent that people are excluded from these services. So this is the first one, and to achieve that, we also encourage partnerships between different levels and different stakeholders. So we also would like to see the EU to introduce housing exclusion as an indicator when they assess the impact of different EU policies. We are also participating in the EU platform combating homelessness. We would like to see other platforms that will gather member states and stakeholders to speak about these challenges and to exchange best practices. And it goes actually back to embrace the new housing paradigm. So to have platforms when we are talking about a new approach with the different stakeholders to achieve healthy housing ecosystems. So here you can use the QR code to read our manifesto digitally, but I also put here a few copies. You can have some few copies or not. You just download it from our website. So I'm happy to discuss about the details further, because of course it's a lot of content, and I know that I cannot go so much in detail. But please come to me in the coffee break and I can tell you more in detail about our different asks. Thank you so much.
The atmosphere is great. The temperature here in the room is reaching new heights, and we all know it's not because of the AC, but we have something more for you. Right now, on the stage, Mykola Ilinov will join us, the CFO at the Ukrainian State Institution Energy Efficiency Fund, and we will hear about the residential energy sector in Ukraine.
I'm going to talk with you about home. It's very important and sometimes very difficult and sensitive topic for me. I think you will understand why. Good morning, greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I am Mykola Ilinov, Chief Financial Officer of the Ukrainian State Institution Energy Efficiency Fund. With over 25 years in banking, I've helped people to achieve their dreams by providing financial resources. And I often ask myself one question. Is there a dream that unites people worldwide? And I think I found the answer: the desire for a place to call home. My story begins with the realization of what home means to me. What makes a multi-family building a home? Some would say spacious rooms, technology or design, maybe nature, maybe grocery store near the home, maybe something else. But what truly glues it all together? The answer lies in the people who live there. Their lives, their dreams, their shared experience transform a building into a home. I was born in eastern Ukraine, now under occupation. And when the war started in 2014, me and my family moved to Kyiv, seeking a new beginning. I bought a new apartment in the European green, cozy satellite city near Kyiv, and together with our neighbors, we created a homeowners association in our building and started to save our money on the utility bills. In 2019, the Energy Efficiency Fund provided grants for the homeowners association, improving living conditions and reducing energy bills. Thanks to our partner from the EU and Germany, as well as from IFC and GIS. And you see this project from our peaceful life. But from February 2022, our life has changed. Since February 2022, millions of people fled raids and bombing into many countries, such as Poland, Germany, Czech Republic, and others. Thanks to our defense forces and our partners, the Russian blitzkrieg failed. 2 years ago, in April 2022, Kiev, Zhytomyr, Chernihiv, Sumy regions were liberated. Me and my neighbors returned home in Irpin with hearts full of grief and inspiration. The consequences of the temporary occupation were devastating, but our resilience of our people was even stronger. 2 years ago, I wasn't the financial director of the fund. I found myself in a different role, a chairman of the Home Owners Association in one of the many damaged buildings. And together with other chairmen, together with thousands of people, we faced two crucial questions: how to restore our homes and where to find funds for the restoration. The promises of the international aids were made, but all these promises often slow to materialize, and our people couldn't wait. We wanted to live in our homes, in our apartments, with our families. Faced with this reality, we started restoring housing ourselves, but our own financial resources were not enough. In November 2022, Energy Efficiency Fund, in the partnership with EU, launched a new program, Rebuild Home. Since the program launched, 568 buildings have applied to participate, of which 346 have already received funding, and this means that more than 48,000 households will be able to return home. Today, the Energy Efficiency Fund is the leader of the restoration and multi-apartment sector and promotion energy efficiency in Ukraine. And this program has a very important component. By the owners gave opportunity to initiate and control the process of restoration, because all decisions they make themselves. Know the fund, know the municipality dictate who co-owners should work with. Every day we see a lot of people, a lot of Ukrainians in Poland, but overall about 85% are staying in Ukraine. And our mission is to help people not only return to Ukraine, but rebuild their homes. And our future projects will include green technologies such as solar panels and heat pumps, and this will reduce energy consumption and increase stability of the home's energy supply. And now I'll go to show a short 3 minutes video for better understanding of my words. Sound. Where's sound?
That of its book out of but they learn actually. These Lhasa and herself backing up enjoying ice cream as they stroll.
1 minute.
Welcome to Earthy, a legendary cave suburb. In the early days of the invasion, it was nearly obliterated with 70% of its homes damaged under Russian occupation. But today, life has returned. Meet Zlata and her family back in Irpin, enjoying ice cream as they stroll through their city. Zlata's father co-owns an online bookstore, which is thriving once more, with customers ordering books just like before.
Люди хочуть до своєї домівки, відкриваються кафешки, відкриваються кінотеатри, запрацювали вже велика кількість магазинів, Тому будуть люди, буде Україна і буде бізнес.
Over the last year, 80% of businesses in Irpin have reopened. In addition, new businesses are starting up, although one can see the aftermath of the catastrophe. Children have not returned yet to this playground, as the house reconstruction has just begun. The Homeowners Association has partnered with the Energy Efficiency Fund under the Vidnovi Dім program to start swiftly renovating new windows, roof repairs, and facades. Funding for the program is 100% provided by the European Union.
It's 100% grants. It's for the Homeowners Association without their need to put some money on their own. The money is available immediately.
IFC is driving this project. Only in Irpin, 32 multi-apartment buildings have joined. Overall in Ukraine by September 2023, 89 houses are already renovated, with over 120 more in progress, including Olga's house. She's head of Homeowners Association and IT specialist. Olga dreams of returning home soon.
Переїжджаючи з місця на місце, тобто це виснажує, це не стимулює ні до чого. Ось, а повернення це однозначно це мотивує до якоїсь продуктивної праці, більш активних якихось дій в своєму житті. А відновлення будинків це також сприяє економіці, тому що починають закуповувати матеріали вже на внутрішні ремонти, на благоустрій якийсь. Тобто, мабуть, це також дуже сприяє.
85% have returned to Irpin, but Ukraine's picture is mixed. Mykola lost half its population. Her sons depopulated, and Kharkiv has blocks of destroyed houses. Dnipro, Zaporizhzhia, Mykolaiv, and Odessa suffered heavy damage. People hesitate to return to Sumy and Chernihiv. These cities will thrive when people return.
У Мінекономіки ми дуже чітко розуміємо, що відбудова – це не наслідок перемоги, це шлях до перемоги. І ми розуміємо, що ключовим драйвером відбудови є люди, їхні таланти, здібності, їхнє бажання відновити своє життя в державі.
The Ukrainian Ministry of Economy focuses on 4 key factors for people returning home: security, development, jobs, and housing. The Vidnovi Dім program addresses all 4 simultaneously, providing housing, fostering security and stability, enabling development, job creation, and increasing demand for services.
I think right now it's very important that the IFC support the private sector in staying alive, in maintaining jobs, which the private sector is the biggest employer in Ukraine, in providing goods and services that the private sector can provide to the population.
Zlata's back home. Her dad's working, taking orders. Zlata's happily drawing the house she missed for 6 months.
Я їхала у Львів, бо коли тут ще літали ракети, літаки, у нас окна потріскалися, і у нас осколок попав в холодильник. Тепер у нас знятина там.
But that's in the past. Now Zlata gives her house drawing as a gift to those who help her come back home.
A present for you. Це ви самі намалювали, так? They have drawn this themselves.
Результат вдався, і наші міжнародні партнери, вони бачать це на власне очі. Це найголовніше, що вони розуміли, що кошти йдуть за цільовим призначенням, що люди повертаються в будинки, що тут життя триває, Україна розвивається і буде рухатися далі.
The end. Zlata's drawing graces the IFC Europe Regional Director's Office, symbolizing a nation rebuilding homes and lives with renewed hope.
Here in Ukraine, the economy is functioning, the private sector is functioning, but it needs our support. So our message is loud and clear. We will stand with the people of Ukraine every step of the way.
Next. Thank you. I will conclude my presentation. I will conclude my presentation with this drawing. Go from Irpin, who you just saw. This drawing is a precise reminder of the importance of enabling people to return home. I'm sure that only together we rebuild homes and create brighter and more sustainable future for all of us in Europe, the place we call our home continent. And your support can make a huge difference in the lives of thousands of people. While Ukrainians are at home, the Ukrainians are fighting, and our European home is safe. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for that inspirational message. I can see that you want more, and that's great because we have two more speakers for you. Our next amazing speaker is Agata Czachórska, Country Sustainability Manager at IKEA, and she will tell us about IKEA's philosophy when it comes to homes.
Thank you. Thank you for the. I wanted to have something to drink, but now I do not have. Yeah, sorry for that. So once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation, dear Habitat for Humanity Poland. I would like to start my presentation or speech with a spoiler. So we heard about the title, about the IKEA's philosophy on home, and this is the philosophy. Everyone deserves a safe place to call home. And now, but what it exactly means? Well, for us it means our vision of creating better everyday life for the many people. And in the center of this vision, we have two very important elements: people and home. And we simply at IKEA are here to help people to create better homes. And we do it in first place by offering our customer wide range of home furnishing products that are designed in a good way, in a sustainable way, with a proper function, with the proper quality, and with affordable prices. And we, from the very, very beginning, we at IKEA, we decided to side with the many. What does it mean? It means that whatever we do, we try to meet the needs, home furnishing needs of many, many different people all around the world with different desires, dreams, challenges at home, but also with very different wallet sizes. But the many means also people that do not have a place, safe place that they can call home. These are also people who had to flee their homes. These are people who cannot afford a home. These are also people on the verge of homelessness or even already experiencing it. And as a business with such a vision and with strong commitment and ambition to create positive social impact in the local communities on those who are most vulnerable ones, we do take the responsibility and we act. And how do we do it? Well, already said, we do try to create positive social impact. We see that the sustainable sources of income is a foundation for a better home. We can also see that you cannot have a home without a decent work. And you cannot have a decent work without having a home, because finding a job without a home is extremely difficult. So you can see that all those things are interconnecting and influences each other. But we have our special forces to do that. One of our special forces is IKEA Foundation, who is working through the grant programs for the local organizations working in the field, in the places when we do not have business operations, helping families that cannot sustain themselves, helping those who needed to fled their homes. We also have IKEA Social Entrepreneurship BV, who is working on acceleration of the development of social entrepreneurs, who of course are there to build jobs for poor, vulnerable, marginalized people who experience social and economical exclusion. And we have companies like IKEA Retail that I represent today. And what we do in retail, you will hear more about it, but we are focusing in our positive social impact activities on opening the pathways to decent work and on increasing the access to better homes. But talking about homes and access to better homes, what exactly we mean? I mean people. What do we mean by home? Home, as our Life at Home report shows, home is not only walls and roof. Home is the feeling of comfort. Home is the feeling of security. Home is the closest relations. Home is the feeling of belonging. So this is not only about the physical space. But the very disturbing information is that according to UN Habitat, there is 1.6 billion people worldwide that live in inadequate housing conditions. This is more than population of India or China. We have 15 million forcefully evicted people every year globally. And also we have it is estimated that there is 150 million homeless people around the world, which means around 4 times population of Poland. So we take the challenge and we focus on right partnerships with the right organizations to get their experience and knowledge. One of them is Habitat for Humanity Poland. It also allows us to act on the needs. We focus on impact, meaning really for us to create substantial long-term change in people's lives. We use our area of expertise. So we use our products, our services, our solutions, and our competences to create this access to better homes. We invite our coworkers to support, to engage in the volunteering activities, so they can also share their competences, design the spaces where people live, vulnerable people, and we also share and inspire other businesses to join us in the movement for better homes. And a couple of tangible examples of how we do it. So, Gliwicka Przystań project. This is project done by IKEA Katowice and by local companies and local authorities. It was all about creating this feel-like home solutions for refugees from Ukraine. And our co-workers, together with co-workers of other companies and with local authorities, home furnished and created 34 bedrooms and common areas in old psychology clinic. And this project helped over 100 refugees from Ukraine. And these are some pictures that how it looked before. And this is what using your area of expertise means exactly. The second project we are very proud of is Together at Home, Razem w Domu, done by IKEA Poznań and Stowarzyszenie Inicjatyw Społecznych. It was also about creating housing spaces that can ensure a safe and better life for refugees from Ukraine. In addition, enabling them also professional activation and integration with local community. In here, what is extremely amazing is that 80 IKEA volunteers spent more than 1,000 hours on designing, renovating, and equipping the space of 500 square meters for 16 families in refugee crisis. And also some pictures for inspiration for you, what this change can mean. And finally, together with We Furnish Better World, this is the project done by IKEA Retail Poland and by Habitat for Humanity Poland, focusing on furnishing of 200 housing units for more than 200 families. And the next activity or initiative that we are very proud of is Skills for Employment. What you see on this slide is the results of the second edition of Skills for Employment. What is Skills for Employment? Skills for Employment is a global initiative that focuses on preparing refugees to enter the job market through the internships in the IKEA stores, language courses, legal and psychological support and mentorship. And globally, thanks to this initiative, we helped 2,900 refugees since 2019. We have new commitment. We want to go for next 3,000 refugees by 2027. In Poland, during 2 editions of this initiative, we had 56 participants from 6 different countries. We cooperated with 4 local NGOs for partners on 5 of our markets. And what is very important is that 66% of the participants get a job after completing the program, and most of them, they found it at IKEA. And my final message, to you is that it's a good business to be a good business. And I would encourage you, I guess that you are representing different NGOs, but also local authorities and different sectors of business. So I would encourage you to join this movement of creating better homes and creating the access to better homes by really focusing on your area of expertise, by going for the right partnerships, by inviting your coworkers to participate, because it will not only show that you are a responsible organization, but it will also influence your brand perception and the engagement and loyalty of your coworkers and customers. And at the end, I would like to leave you with one food for thought. Thinking about home. Home is very fundamental thing that gives this feeling of security, of independence, of empowerment, gives you the feeling of agency, is just a fundamental need, but also very universal need that unites us all, no matter how different we are. Home is a human right. But in today's reality, in today's time, really, is it a human right or a privilege? Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I can see the excitement is still going up, and that is great news because we have one more speaker for you. We'll have opportunity to hear from Dr. Julie Lawson, Adjunct Professor at the Centre for Urban Research at the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, and she will talk about Ukraine housing recovery.
Thank you very much. Interesting. The Habitat, the IKEA Foundation, is actually based in my hometown, Leiden, which is, I think, for tax reasons, but we won't go into that. All right. Now, I'm going to talk about Ukraine's really practical housing process that's going on. And
You know who I am. I don't need to introduce myself. Thank you very much. But I do need to introduce the many Ukrainian researchers that I've been working with. Thank you very much to the NGOs in Ukraine, to the researchers there that are so talented. And we would not be able to voice the messages that we're going to do today without their considerable contribution. RMIT has been supporting them all along the way for the last over 2, almost 3 years. So it's not just RMIT, of course, that's expressing solidarity. It's the whole European community. And it's been demonstrated by the active support of EU member states, in particular Germany, Austria, Finland, Ireland, Denmark, Poland, the Netherlands, who have played a particularly active role in the housing question. These member states, of course, and all the member states eventually, thank goodness, supported the EU facility, the 50 billion EU facility. Now, this is very, very important because this is a force behind the efforts of Ukraine. Ukraine has its own plan. It devises its own series of reforms, including those within housing. Can I have the... Okay, well, we've heard already about the extensive nature of the damage, but I think it needs to be pointed out that almost 40% of that damage is to people's homes and neighbourhoods. Civilians have been most impacted. Therefore, we need to think about housing as being very much integral to the housing recovery plan. And as researchers and policymakers, we've fought very, very hard to ensure that that was included in the Ukraine recovery plan, in fact, arguing that it is integral, and there are 3 key justifications. Its social justification, of course, goes without saying, and we've heard a lot already that good homes will be an enabler of return. 65% of refugees want to return. The longer they stay away, perhaps that will go down. So the more promise and hope we can give them in a good housing future, the stronger the returnees will be. But 91% of those say that depends, and it depends to a large degree on the housing that they will be able to return to. Of course, it goes without saying that a good home is all about, in economic speak, human capital retention and all those things. People able to form communities, to contribute to work life, the economy, etc., and a so-called productive workforce, a sustainable workforce, hopefully, with good jobs and a decent living. The economic justification about a strong role for housing in the recovery is a lot to do with economic stimulus. Almost every crisis that we've faced during the 20th century, we've actually had some form of housing stimulus as being integral to that recovery. So we see housing coming back again and again and again as a vehicle to grow the economy. It's one of the largest multipliers. It's one of the, it involves large-scale expenditure, of course, but with many second-round effects, great impacts on employment, and of course we've talked about the social well-being attached and the economic implications of having a home from which to grow a family and to work. But also we've heard from the Energy Efficiency Fund how vital it is on ecological terms, that we know that self-built, rapid and unplanned housing is not going to be the answer for Ukraine's future. That will cause sprawl, really bad housing conditions. You see it as you come in from Kiev airport already, these houses that have been sort of built as, entrepreneurially. That's not the way of Europe's future. We need to promote and reduce energy consumption, reliance on fossil fuels, and so on, for a more sustainable and well-integrated urban development. Thank goodness, though, it was included in the recovery plan. And you can find in Chapter 7, it's called Human Capital Formation in economic speak, but there's a social housing reform that's really significant in there And that is what Ina was talking about yesterday, and which Ina Sarapina, who's the head of housing policy, and her team are really working fast and hard on reforms, on adjustments and adaptations to the law, and thinking about how to implement those reforms in the future. So I'm very, very pleased that Ina made it to Warsaw, and I wish her team all the best in their endeavours. But what's important, of course, is that reform, which is outlined and supported by the EU facility, and its actions and results, also helps to define the goals, of course, the responsibilities, and the how-to of that implementation process. We've talked about legal reform, and that's well underway. We've also talked about learning from experience. So in the Ukraine plan, it mentions specifically to draw on European best practices, but also Ukraine's own pilots and experiments and experiences. And that's incredibly important, that we don't move forward without looking around and understanding the context as best as we can. Of course, in looking around, Europe has been really, really supporting Ukraine right from the beginning. Housing 2030, for example, got out there and extracted its most relevant policies and initiatives. It was part of the UNECE workshop in September 2022. It worked also alongside NGOs and building their capacities like SEIDOS and New Housing Policy. We worked very, very close with them to try to improve and open up their imagination for what could be good in the future. So we held forums, we actually developed courses with TU Delft. We had 700 Ukrainian students on those online courses. We've supported networks in many countries as well, in Germany and in the Netherlands in particular, and in Austria. We held forums which involved speakers and responsible people from Ukraine. At that moment, we had people from Lviv and Deputy Minister Azakina, also big names, I guess, and big players like the IMF were present, the EIB, the European Commission were all very much involved, which led to a report called Rebuilding a Place to Call Home. We continue to try to support Ukraine, and Ukraine's going through, since the 3rd of April, a consultation on its draft principles law. We have ideas for that, which we'd like to contribute before that consultation process formally closes, and that will be our genuine input and support, which continues unending for Ukraine. And as mentioned already, we've got European member states who are also reaching out for Ukraine in terms of, for example, Finland's National Housing Agency as a possible model for organizing things, municipal agreements by which national government can help transfer resources to make it work with municipalities who have much devolved responsibility but no resources to do it. So look at those agreements which they've outlined for you. Also, a economically feasible system that addresses the needs. Make it broad. The need is broad. So work with the broadest incomes of households. That will also make it stack up socially and also economically in the future. Stronger shoulders with the weaker ones. Someone's got to bring the shopping up to the 4th floor, and you need a mix. I can go on, but I've only got a minute left. But Ina, you're a hero. Lots is resting on your shoulders, but you're not alone. We all want to help you. And also, of course, the European Commission is right behind you with the facility. And that's why Chapter 7 is there. How will it be grown? Of course, investment, but let's make it needs-based and make sure it gets to those areas where it's most needed. We've done researchers, all voluntary, not with a vested interest, working on tools that can show where the needs are from the IOM surveys, where the households are and what their situation is, what's their capacity to pay, what's the difference, how much will it cost, and we've worked out the necessary program window that needs to be on a needs basis across the country. And of course, as mentioned, Ukraine is doing it. Let's learn from the bits that are doing the work already. And here are some of the programs supported by international donors. I've been interviewing them. I've been talking to their participants. We're going to extend that effort and provide a report for Ukraine to help them further along their way. And of course, money, of course, matters, but it's not any kind of money. We talk a lot about private investment, but it's not always the most efficient. Development banks will be key in the beginning, lower cost, long-term, purposeful. Private investment won't come unless there's a stable, secure, well-governed model to invest in. So the development banks will be the path breakers. And what will it look like? A clear vision, which they're working on now with the National Housing Strategy, reform social housing law, or an adapted or replaced one. We're going to work through that. We'll help them. Also, the financial intermediary, having that purposeful investment. Also, we need to grow a good alternative to the petty small landlords that are out there. We want responsible public providers or non-profit or NGO providers, but we need a garden for them to grow. So we need to create the situation, the context legally and also purposeful investment-wise. Energy efficiency is going to be part of it in the future. We've got to reach out and integrate that and ensure that it's a place for everyone and it's inclusive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I believe all our 5 speakers deserve a big round of applause. With all this excitement and energy piled up, I believe we are ready to move to the roundtable discussion. But before that, we are going to have a privilege to hear a short introduction by Grzegorz Gajda, Senior Urban Specialist at the European Investment Bank. Grzegorz, please join us on stage.
Yes, I will talking a little bit shortly, hopefully interestingly, about how we look at a nexus of cities and housing from the perspective of an institution that is there to support implementation of European Union policies. And of course, urban and housing are the places that impact pretty much everybody living in the European Union. So let's see how we can summarize it in some kind of a way. Okay. How do I switch the slides? I use those buttons, right? Oh, fantastic. Okay. So when I'm thinking about housing, I really would like to see why we are doing this and why it is important that we talk about it. And when I'm thinking for myself about this, I'm always trying to visualize a problem. And the one that I see most often is this. So this is when the young people are able to leave their household and create a new household. I mean, to leave the household of their parents and to create a new household. And we can see that, there are some differences in Europe. So in some countries, they can do it rather early. There are some countries in which they basically cannot. Maybe they don't want to, but maybe they don't have a house to set up a new family in that house. And I would like to believe that this is the case. And there are some countries where we can see this as a problem. And we also understand that maybe housing policies in those countries are not the greatest ones. So this is where I think housing comes very much into a contact with our actual life and our choices that are available for us when we think about our future. So to me, housing is very much about the future that we create for the generations, for our future children, and maybe for ourselves when we are retiring, where are we going to be living when we no longer can afford to be just on our own. So that is very much a human side of it. So what do we do about it? Okay. So we are in Warsaw. I am from Warsaw. I know the city very well. And this city is showing to us some interesting problems that the city and the housing have in common. So I have a couple of pictures to illustrate a certain interesting set of facts. So typically our cities in Central and Eastern Europe look like the one at the bottom. Okay, wide streets, lot of space, segregation of functions, housing there, shopping there, industrial over there, commercial somewhere else. That was a development that basically we had in many cases. That is an idea of urbanism from the 60s, and that's how our cities basically look like. Now, what do we do with them is that picture at the top in the middle. Okay, now ownership comes in. 19, privatization. We want to be owners because we will invest in our future by becoming owners. And what do we do? When we own something, we put a fence around it. And this is actually an everyday picture of people living in this part of the world. We have those idiotic fences pretty much in the middle where people normally would walk. There are maps in Kraków, which is a beautiful city. Everybody loves Kraków. I mean, it's such a popular city among tourists, but local people, when there is a map how they walk from their home to the bus station, they cannot just go like this. 200 meters, they have to meander between fences in order to get to the bus station because somebody some time ago draw lines that divided crop fields, and now they dictate the footpaths of people living in this city today. These are young people who migrate to city of Kraków looking for better job. And what they buy this thing, which is on the top right picture. And the top right picture is basically what we all aspire to purchase. We are willing to take very expensive 30-year long mortgage loan, which basically is also a bit of a slavery, because if you don't pay one installment, they will kick you out to the street. And with this big effort, we buy this. We buy for ourselves kind of a prison. And this is what we do voluntarily, right? I mean, we are crazy, actually. And here on the left-hand side, what I'm showing is actually, you know what it is? This is the most dangerous street in Warsaw. It's Ulica Stalowa. I mean, you have this address in Warsaw, you don't get a job. So this is our housing and urban policy, okay? Okay, so how this can be resolved? So privatization basically resulted in this change of ownership structure. So the blue is outright ownership, the red is cooperative ownership. Cooperative ownership in Poland is as good as outright ownership. So basically you have nothing else. You have only ownership option. Big change in the structure of housing ownership that happened since the 90s. So that is what I wanted to say, how we in Europe look at housing. We believe that housing is not a market product. We believe it's more like an infrastructure. It actually has a lot of characteristics of natural monopoly. So monopoly is that you have a desert and there is only one person who has a water source in a desert. That's the same pretty much in terms of housing. I mean, there is only one piece of land and only one person can own this piece of land and build a house on it. I mean, if you are lucky to have that piece of land and you build this housing, you know that somebody else doesn't have it. So if you can sell those houses, you can sell it at the highest price possible. And that is a very important message I'd like to make. So here in Poland, we have been able to convince the journalists to look at various governmental policies already in a kind of more European way. So for example, loan products that are offered to people to acquire housing, the governments like to subsidize. It's easy, it's simple, you just put some money aside in the budget, and then you think that if you subsidize those loans, people will benefit from that. Now, in Poland, we all know now it doesn't work. I mean, the government tried many times. It always led to increase of prices of those apartments. So all those benefits basically very quickly become completely eliminated by growing price of the house. Now, our government is proposing another mechanism like that, again, after the failed mechanism from the previous government. And now the press is talking about it like that. So I'm not saying anything to the contrary of the popular thinking. Now, what it means is that it's not that the house price is a sum of certain parameters. It basically says that there is one balancing factor, which is price of land. I mean, price of housing is a purchasing power of the population. I mean, this is how houses are priced, not by sum of costs, it's by how much people can pay. Okay, so if you know how much people can pay, then you deduct from it construction costs, you deduct profits, and that's how much you can pay for land. Now, if you believe me, what I'm saying, there is one thing that actually is quite an interesting story, and I would like to then see if you would agree with me or not on that. If what I'm saying is true, then there is also an important element, a consequence of that thinking that would impact our policies. In many countries, there is discounted VAT on construction services and construction materials. Now, if what I'm saying is true, this discounted VAT, it makes no sense. It does not contribute to lower cost of housing for anybody. It only elevates land costs. So if I'm right, we should change the tax policy actually and eliminate the discounted VAT rates for construction materials. So I wonder if you would agree with me on that or not. There will be another discussion on that going on later. But that's how in Europe people are looking at housing. And then from this point of view, the consequences have to be established. So just to summarize very quickly what it leads to, if you want to have better housing policies that are actually based on our experience, our 100 years of trying to develop those policies for the people and test them in practice, and actually have housing that looks like this. That's my photo I took myself. Public housing in Netherlands can look like this, and it can cost very little. We just have to have a couple of elements, and very important one is scale. It's a very costly and expensive business. It has to be done at scale in order for it to actually work. It has to be based on strong policies. I mean, we cannot do it here and there somehow. There has to be a very strong political policy based, and there has to be very strong institutions that stand behind those policies. To offer this housing to a wide group of people as an important source of the way housing needs of people are satisfied, it cannot be a narrow program just for very narrowly defined groups of people. And we have seen examples where such programs led to complete failures. Very often in developing markets, there were some tries of public housing for the poorest, always led to a failure. We need to have affordable rents that people can pay. And the thinking is that it is the responsibility of the state to ensure that people can pay. I mean, we cannot just treat the people the way, okay, if they don't pay, it's their problem. No, if they don't pay, it's our problem. That's the thinking we should have. And the last, we need to do it in a way, cross-subsidization, meaning solidarity approach. I mean, we have to be solidarily responsible for financing this efficient housing delivery for everybody to be affordable. So richer people should pay more, poorer people should pay less. I mean, why we should be doing this, actually? And from the point of the cities, now, if we don't do it this way, what happens? We get suburbanization, okay? We get cities spread out for 50 kilometers, and people move far away from city center because they cannot afford to live in the center. And this seems correct decision, but then these people say, okay, I need school, I need transport, I need water, I need fiber optic connection, I need all services of 21st century that would make life normal. And then the state has to pay for it. Cost of running infrastructure in a geographically spread city is enormous, so enormous, that it justifies investments in good housing policies because it's just a cheaper deal for everybody. Okay? And that is the housing story that I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much.